how important do you think a good lifestyle is to effectively be able to run a business?
As business owners, I think we need clear heads, time off, where you can just daydream and strategize.
And once you start getting competent and you realize that it's a good business, then you start getting really passionate about growing it.
I remember at one point thinking, I've been chasing this for so long. I always knew I wanted to be my own boss and sort of run my own business.
At what stage do you think I've really got a good go at this here? I can really make something of this?
The real turning point for me, or the aha moment, was...
Welcome to a brand new podcast, The Winning Journey. And the reason I've decided to name it this is because we're all on a journey, we're all trying to win, and we're all trying to progress. And my very first guest today is none other than my friend Dave Cordner, who is the Managing Director of Central Belfast Apartments, the Airbnb coach as well.
Yep.
You're a man of many talents.
Yep, a few hats.
And you've won a lot of awards over the last couple of years throughout your outstanding service. Is that right?
Yeah, so Central Belfast Apartments last year in particular was just a phenomenal year for us. So two big industry awards. So we won at the Service Department Awards, we won Best Service Department Operator in the UK. And then at the World Travel Awards, we won Northern Ireland's leading service department. So, like, smashing year, absolutely loved it. Recognition of a pretty, can I swear on this?
Yeah,
pretty
swear away.
pretty shit pandemic for Airbnb and travel in general. Like, so yeah, 2021, 22 were brilliant for us. So yeah, it's been good.
Brilliant. And actually, I've done quite a lot of research on previous podcasts that you've done, and I'd sort of seen a pattern of things that you were talking about, especially in regards to your customers. And it seems to me like not once did I hear you mention about your business, you know, money and things like that. Obviously that's important, but one thing that I really found is you had an insane passion for Belfast City. So can you explain how you started that?
It is that is the case. Honestly, I do much more focus on that than the money sort of thing. But so when I started in Airbnb, or sort of service accommodation, whatever you want to call it, I was helping out my mum and dad with their places. It was way back 15 years ago or so. And I used to help them out for a few quid to like clean the place and meet guests when they were away. And it was meeting the guests whenever they arrived. I just got such a buzz from it because, you know, think back 15 years ago, no one was really coming here. So there weren't many Airbnbs, so the place was busy enough. But everyone who came was coming for the first time, and it was often it was like a wee add-on. So they were doing a tour of Ireland, and they did a wee add-on. Oh, sure, we'll go to Belfast while we're here. So when I would ask them, what do you got planned? They would just be like, well, I don't know really. Like, I don't know really what there is to do here. And like, I'm from Carrick, so I always saw Belfast as the big smoke. You know, I used to love coming up here. I know, like, but it was, you know, I don't know if you've been to Carrick recently, but I used to love coming up here and into the city. It just felt like life and vibrancy and everything about it. So by that stage, I was living in Belfast. So I was living the dream. And these people that were coming, not really sure what they were going to do, I was telling them all the best places to go, or in my opinion, my favourite places to go at the time. And then I would often meet them at checkout because I would be cleaning the place whenever they left. And you just see they were just like, so, like, their expectations were low of the city. And I'd like threw all these cool things for them to do. And they were just blown away. They hadn't expected it to be so good. Mm-hmm. And that really lit a fire in me. I loved that. I loved getting that reaction from them. I loved just being like, where do you go out here and you're going to try the Causeway, the Black Taxi Tour, Titanic, these bars, you know, you're going to go into restaurants, people are going to want to talk to you because you're tourists. They're going to be like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And I just got the real buzz for that. Fast forward to now, we've got like 70 plus units. I can't meet any guests anymore, but that's why I like doing the videos, the social media stuff, where I can sort of showcase the city on a much wider scale to people, but still really doing the same thing. Like, where do you see this new bar? Where do you see this new tour you can try?
Yeah. Funny enough, you just said about people stopping in the street saying, oh, why are you here? Why are you here? Because people from here actually think it's a terrible city, whereas I'm in the same boat as you. I think it's an amazing city. And I actually remember doing a video last year. It was a TikTok video of us moving someone, I think it was from somewhere in England to Belfast. And I think I had on the tagline, moving from, I think it was Hereford, for example, to Belfast. And the amount of people from here that wrote on there going, why would you bother? What are you doing? What are you doing coming here? And I was like, the video blew up. Like, it got thousands of views.
Whenever I got my first place then of my own, and I'd be telling my mates at the time, like, oh, I'm buying this Airbnb, they'd be like, are you mental? Like, why no one is going to come here? Why would anyone come here? And I think you're right, it is such a, I don't know, it's just, we're so close to it, I think, that we just don't see it. You know, people from like Americans absolutely love this place. And the ironic thing is, like you touched on, it is the people, it's those same people who are like, this place is shit, are the people that the tourists love, because it's genuine curiosity of, why did you come here? And, oh, we're here to see that. Oh, well, have you tried that place? And what about this? And, you know, it's that friendliness and just openness to these people that makes the tourists feel so welcome. And I think, you know, it's like a catchphrase of mine, like, this is a hidden gem, this city and this country. And it's not swamped with tourists anymore. You know, it's not like Barcelona where like the locals are sick of it, get out, or probably some other big cities. Whenever a tourist comes here, they do feel very part of it, because they don't see millions and millions of tourists everywhere. They sort of feel like they're uncovering this secret place, and they go into any bar and it's just full of local people. And there's a real authenticity about that, and people really respond to that. You know, you go to Dublin and there's just tourist areas, tourist bars, and you might struggle to find an Irish person in there, whereas it's not like that here. Not yet anyway. Hopefully it's never like that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a city that's on the up and coming. But I want to touch back. You said you managed the apartments for your mum and dad at one stage. So I was going back 15 years ago, and is that how you started your career, or can you tell me a bit about how your career started even before that, and how you led into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so it couldn't be more different. So I've got a degree and a master's in psychology and applied psychology, and my dream, my goal, way back when, was to be a clinical psychologist. And
wow,
it's tough going. So, you know, I've got about 10 years worth of experience and stuff in it. And as I say, I was just helping my mum and dad out when they needed it, sort of when they would go on holiday. And never, you know, I got the buzz for meeting these guests, like I said, but I never was like, oh, I want to do this. And then, it was just, I had the opportunity to get one. And I was sort of at this crossroads then, because I was running them both at the same time. I was running my first apartment, but I was also still working in mental health, and I was just going to have that as a wee side hustle. So I've been chasing this clinical psychology dream for a long time, and to cut a long story short, it's very, very hard to get into the doctorate to be a clinical psychologist. The final sort of training, it's like medical school, you're paid, so it's very, very, very competitive. And I remember at one point thinking, I've been chasing this for so long. It's just a job at the end of the day, a hard job as well, well paid, but hard, you know, emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't even close to getting into the actual doctorate. The job I was in at that time was working with adults with severe and enduring mental illness, so really tough, emotionally draining shifts. And so I was going from that, tough going, finishing that shift, going to the apartment to welcome these, you know, say 4 or 5 women from Liverpool who'd had a few wines in the airport. They're like, here's 500 quid for the weekend. I was just like, like very clearly.
Almost like one side of the spectrum to the other. One was really down and emotional, and the next one everybody was going crazy. Yeah.
So I just sort of thought to myself, like, this is, you know, I've been on this road for a long time towards psychology. You know, I don't see change in direction as a failure. I see it as a, you know, I might never get there. I might get there and then hate it and be like, I've wasted 15 years of my life.
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted to be my own boss and sort of run my own business. I never really knew what that was. And as I say, I genuinely didn't even think back then that what I was doing could get to any sort of scale or be a sort of full-time business. But yeah, I just decided to sort of jump in then and got my second one, and just it sort of went from there. So I've absolutely no regrets. I remember at the time saying, I'm done with mental health. My mum going, you're mad, you've done a degree, you've done a master's, you've travelled across the UK for jobs to get the experience you need. And I just remember saying, yeah, but it's not, you know, I'm at peace with it. I don't regret it. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And I wish I'd maybe that niggling feeling of being your own boss, I sort of wish I had scratched that itch much earlier, because I'm happier than ever now. to put it bluntly, I was a very shit employee. I don't like taking directions from people. I think a lot of business owners feel like that. You always think you know a better way to do it, or you want to be your own boss. You want to sort of think and spend your time doing stuff that interests you, and not the stuff that people are telling you to do that you think is sort of boring or pointless.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, and just as you mentioned, we all kind of, I certainly had that urge to start my own business. I always wanted to do my own thing as well, and it's something that I think everybody thinks about at one stage, but when people see the kind of pressure that an employer has, or people start a business and they don't realize that the amount of pressure that it can be, it's definitely not for everybody. And I know a lot of people who are great employees and they earn good money, and they're just like, I wouldn't want to cope with the stress that they deal with. But whenever you start something and you may not be competent in it or passionate about it to begin with, but something that's really been niggling me over the last load of weeks, I heard this before, whenever you become competent in something, then eventually passion does follow. And when you start to get good at something, even if it's not what you expected to do, it certainly happened with me with removals. And once you start getting competent and you realize that it's a good business, then you start getting really passionate about growing it.
Mm-hmm. So were you not passionate before you started?
Well, I sort of started by accident like you. It's not something I ever managed. It's something that I was doing as a side hustle. And then it just turned into a business. And then once I got good at it, the reviews started coming in, started hiring people. Then I started to go, do you know what? This is actually a great business.
Mm-hmm. I think when you start something, you have to have some sort of desire or interest, because otherwise you're not going to put enough attention to it for it to work. But once you see that it does start to work, then all your attention goes to it. And I think that's when you start to really get the mastery and the understanding, or at least the competence that you see, okay, I'm here, I can see the gap between where I am and where I need to be, and you just jump straight in, and that's when you start to really enjoy it, because you're learning all the time, putting things in practice, testing wee things. Some work, some don't. But it's a journey that you go on. And yeah, I agree, it's not for everyone. It is scary when you start.
Yeah.
Everyone think, it's like that, the book, The E-Myth. If you love baking cakes, go work in a cake shop. Don't open your own bakery, because you won't get any time to bake the cakes. You'll be doing everything else and running the business.
A book I've read twice now, and I think every business owner should read it. It's unbelievable. So at what stage did you think, so you're in the service accommodation business, at what stage did you think, I've really got a good go at this here, I can really make something of this?
So I had two. I bought the first apartment, and in the second year I was able to buy a second one. So with those two, I was earning a lot more from those two than I was in full-time working in that mental health role. It was a low-level role, so it was an easy decision for me to make to leave work and do that, and that was a lucky position to be in. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have to jump in and have nothing, or are doing a side hustle but can't dedicate enough time for it to really see the potential before you leave work. So I was lucky that way. I was ticking along with two. I was earning decent money. I was doing all the work, obviously, myself, and the real turning point for me, or the aha moment, was, so I'd mentioned that I'd helped out with my mum and dad. They were still running theirs at the same time as I was running mine. Mm-hmm. They were getting on and actually wanting to retire, properly retire, and they were like, look, we want you to sort of take them over, but we still need to make money from them to live. How can we work this out, sort of thing? So we worked out a structure where I would manage it on their behalf. So I would take a commission, or my company would take a commission, and they would get the rest, sort of thing, after all the running costs. And there was a few iterations of that, but we settled on this structure, and it worked fine. We're still managing them for them. But once that was proven that could work, I was like, oh my God, well, if I can manage it for them, I can manage for anyone. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. I've got skin in the game because it's a profit share model. And yeah, I just went to market and being like, hi, I can now manage apartments for you. If you have an apartment and want to make money from Airbnb, but you don't know how or have the time to do it, then give it to us and we'll do it for you. And it really just sort of, it grew from there. So yeah.
I've seen a lot of people online trying to, do Airbnb coaching and do our Airbnb businesses, and they're obviously there's money to be made in it, but of course it is a business, and there's a lot of running costs in it as well. And this is just my own, from what I see, you see there's obviously a lot of operations involved in the management side of things, because I'm sure you have to guest check in, check out dates, cleaners to be organised, bookings, questions to be responded to. I'm sure there's a lot of that as well. So if somebody's listening to this and they're trying to maybe start Airbnb for their own property or a couple of properties, what sort of things would they need to be taken into consideration in order to do it successfully?
So the most important thing for the success of any property is the location. So if people already have a property and they're thinking, I'm going to do this, they really need to investigate about whether that location will work or not, because there's no guarantee that it will. On top, once you've sort of agreed that and we'll say for all intents and purposes that you've got a good location for your property, it's like you say, there are a lot of moving parts. I've distilled them down in an ebook that I wrote to 5 things, and that's the property. So it's not just the location, it's what it looks like inside. How big is it? Are you going for a 1-bedroom or a 3-bedroom? Is it a house or an apartment? The promotion, so where do you actually get the bookings from? Because, everyone's heard of Airbnb, but really we get a fraction of our bookings from Airbnb. There are much bigger booking sites out there like booking.com and direct bookings as well. The people, so the guests who are actually coming, what do you expect from them? They can be really, really demanding, and I think that's probably the biggest mindset shift that people need to realize, especially if they're coming from a traditional property background where they have tenants. The shift from tenants to tourists is very, very different from what they expect. And then the processes about streamlining it, because you're right, it can take over your life. There are so many things that need to happen on a daily basis, and messages that come through from guests, they need answered urgently. And then the last one is protection. So, we've all heard the horror stories, and they are real. They are not fairy tales. There are horrible people out there who want to come and travel around in Airbnbs and wreck them, sort of things. So it's really those 5 things, only 5, but it could be a lot worse if I hadn't distilled them down to 5.
So I'm going to ask you about the horror stories now. Tell me some of the horror stories, because I think everybody wants to hear that.
They happen everywhere, and they will happen to everyone. It's almost like a rite of passage. No matter what you do, you will be stung, and it's horrible.
That's with every business, I'm sure.
Well, that's a fair point, actually. I've never really thought about it like that, but yeah, you're probably right, actually. But in Airbnb, it's tough to take, because especially when you're just starting out, you've poured all your heart and soul into this property. You're doing your best. You've kitted it out. You're full of enthusiasm at the start. You just think, all these lovely families are going to come and stay, and they're going to love the way I've got this set out and this. And reality is, the first weekend you get a squad of 18-year-olds coming. You just want to go out on the piss, or someone's stag party or something, and they'll just wreck the place. And you or your cleaners will turn up on Sunday, and it'll be a horror show. They'll be sick in the sink. There'll be broken glass on the floor. There'll be blood on the walls. There'll be, or worse. And it's just gut wrenching. You just feel like, you just feel so frustrated. So, it's just horrible. It's a horrible feeling. But there's not just people coming to party. There's people who, there's prostitutes travel around and use Airbnb. So, you'll get a booking and you think, this is a great booking. 7 nights from one lady. Brilliant. And then you'll go to clean it after that, and you'll find all sorts of stuff lying all over the place, under the beds and in the bins and stuff, and you just think, it's just rotten. Right. You just think it's just horrible. So you gotta be safe and streetwise, and just be careful, because those people are out there, and it's like a game of cat and mouse. We got stung. Well, I think everyone got stung during COVID, and I think it was summer, it was sort of September 2020. I think, if I remember right. So they'd opened hospitality up here, bars and restaurants. I think the six households or something. I can't remember what it was, but stuff was open, whereas down south, everything was still in full lockdown. And September came, and I think there was actually a few music festivals on outside at Boucher or something, and there was a swarm of 18-year-olds came up from down south to these festivals. Like, up here was seen as like the holy, open. The shining light of hospitality was open.
Yeah.
All these kids had turned 18 during lockdown and were like, I need to go out. So they did, and they came up, and I spoke to so many people because I remember during it was like 2 weekends in a row we got caught. We just didn't expect it. We knew hospitality was open. We thought, brilliant, everyone's going to come out. But all the sort of more, I don't want to say normal people, but people who are a bit more middle of the road, a bit more cautious about going out, were just like, we'll leave it for a wee while longer. But the 18s were like, get me out.
Yep.
So they stormed up. Like the Cathedral Quarter was just packed, it was crawling with them. And pretty much every one of our apartments was full of them in that first weekend because we just weren't expecting it. And that was tough going because they were just like literally wild animals let out of the cage. So it was tough, but it will happen to everyone. You just have to try and be as careful as you can and be as strict. At the end of the day, this is your property. The booking sites are going to try and force you to take a booking if it's in, but this is your property. They work for you. You don't work for them. So
yeah, I
hadn't thought about that in a while. Let's just bring back bad memories now.
I can't imagine what it was like. I'm sure you're going to tell me, but going from probably Belfast is obviously an up and coming city, a lot of bookings happening, the COVID-19 strikes. So what happens between the date the lockdown was announced up until you guys started to get going again? How was that period, and how did you adjust?
So I remember I was in Gran Canaria or Tenerife or something whenever it was just starting to be on the news, like the UK news and all, Sky News. I remember sitting like watching it in the thing in Tenerife whenever Tom Hanks came down with it. If anyone else can remember that, it's like a pivotal moment. Like, oh my God, Tom Hanks is going to die. Like, we didn't realize but then when we got home, people were mentioning lockdown, starting to talk about it. Then it actually happened. Airbnb brought in this policy of force majeure, which effectively meant, listen, we don't care if you've got a non-refundable booking on your diary. If you've already taken the payment, this is like act of God sort of territory, so you're refunding everything. And then Booking.com, it started off just China.
Yeah.
It started off in just bookings from China. Fair enough. And then once they did it for China, they couldn't then not do it for every other country that went into a lockdown, which was every country. And then we went into lockdown as well. So we were in this horrendous position of, within about 2 days, we lost about like hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of bookings.
Jesus.
Non-refundable bookings.
Yeah.
Money that was in our bank that was like, get that back to them, give it back to them, refund it. Like, just hundreds of emails coming through like per hour of just cancellations. Everyone was just cancelling at the exact same time. It was terrifying. It was scary. Like,
Jesus.
It was tough. Then because we were managing apartments for our clients, I had very awkward, difficult conversations with them as well because
you have to still pay their.
Well, no, but this is the thing. It's a profit share, so we win and lose together. So we're normally always winning, but COVID comes, so
it's not like
travel.
It's not like a rent to rent kind of thing.
There's no sort of fixed liability. So they were sort of understandably saying, where's are we getting any money in the foreseeable future? So, and I obviously couldn't answer, and no one could. We were very lucky that most of our clients, the vast majority of them, stuck with us. They knew it would be, right out the storm. By summer, we would have some form of normality back, which we sort of did. Obviously, we went back into other lockdowns and stuff. But the vast majority of them stuck in with us. And throughout the whole thing, I was trying to just be super positive, super optimistic about this pent-up demand because I knew I was feeling it. I wanted to get out and travel again, and I knew everyone else did as well. And they were rewarded with that because when they opened it properly, I'm not talking about the 18-year-olds coming up, the floodgates opened, and like 2021, 22, the best years by far I've ever had in business. Like, it was just phenomenal. So many people, so many apartments like ours had just turned the lights off and went back to long-term rent. So they were gone. They were out. They had 2-year tenants in there, so there was no chance they were coming back anytime soon. Yeah,
didn't want to risk it.
Yeah, well, they couldn't kick people out because all the regulations had changed about tenants. You couldn't get rid of them if they were in. We were really lucky because, like you say, it wasn't rent to rent, so we didn't have any fixed liabilities. Because if we did, we would have been gone, dead. We were very lean, so basically, whenever the bookings evaporated. We didn't really have many fixed costs. We obviously, thanks to furlough and stuff, that really helped, but we were very lean, so we could just sort of go into hibernation. But it was tough. There was a lot of soul searching in me. It was definitely the worst couple of weeks of my life, and I'm sure like a lot of business owners felt that sheer panic of what the fuck am I going to do here? I had to just sort of try and be right. Okay, I can't control any of this stuff that's happening out here to us. Let's try and work on stuff that I can control, and that was really useful. I sort of remember struggling between going, I need to be working, I need to be doing something, I need to be keeping my head focused, and going, just forget about it, just leave it, just like back off, because I remember thinking that's dangerous to be in that position, because I want to be ready, I want to be sharp for whenever this opens up again, that I can go. So it was a fine line of having to walk that. I'm sure a lot of people felt that as well. Like, it was probably the only time I envied being in a job.
Yeah.
Or, reminisced about being in a job. You hear about these people who just were getting furlough and just sitting at home watching Netflix and stuff with not a care in the world. Just like, this is great, let's get a dog or something. It wasn't like that for me, and probably you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely right about definitely not sitting back and doing nothing, because we had the same scenario. I think the lockdown was announced on the 23rd or the 27th of March. We still had bookings in. People were contracted to complete their moves, so we had to finish those for the customers. Just, it wasn't an option. The legal contracts to complete in certain days. So I think we were fully booked for maybe the week or two after that. And then obviously bookings started to dwindle away. Didn't really know what to do, had to shut down. But at that stage, we were quite lean as well. I was kind of still dispatching vans from my house. So we were able to stay closed for a few weeks. But the same thing, I had the same thing as you. I didn't want to focus on what I couldn't control, which was what was going on with the government. I just wanted to focus on what I could control, and I was like, right, I'm going to redo the website. I'm going to learn a bit of SEO. I'm going to learn this. And I started a podcast initially at around about that time as well. So you were just trying to do something, and because I remember seeing people in my industry, and one specific picture, there was a guy holding up a bottle of Corona on his forehead, sitting in his back garden in the nice weather, saying, "Oh, the coronavirus, I've caught the coronavirus." And I was sitting going, if you don't put the work in now, there won't be a business to come back to. And sure enough, of course, a few months later, there was a lot of people looking for advice, because we really tried to step up our marketing at that stage. But I remember it being very tough for a couple of months. But at the same time, with one bad thing, another good thing comes, because 2021 and 2022 were the best years that I've ever had as well. Yeah. So they were unbelievable. But
do you think it was worth it? I've asked myself this a couple of times. Do you think, because where we got to, like, I thought we were growing fast before COVID, but since COVID, like, all the stuff that I put in place, all those little things all those rainy day things that, COVID was the biggest rainy day ever that you could actually get around to doing. Like, we've come out like a fucking rocket, and you sort of look back and go, was it worth it? Was that probably was a good thing in a way to us. Like, I learned anyway, like, so much about myself in terms of like resilience and things, because you always sort of wonder, like, if the shit hits the fan, am I going to be able to step up? And I sort of felt like I did, and I'm sure you're the same. And everyone else who's come out the other side stronger must feel probably on balance was
100%. And the thing is, you can only connect the dots looking back. You look back and you go, do you know what, that was a good thing, because I learned this, and this. We stepped it up. When we came in, we were stronger. Came into the busy season, we were a lot stronger. But I mean, I just think though, I just couldn't sit around and do nothing. I just didn't want to be that guy, because you would have crumbled away. You would have let your business fall, and I'd say a lot of the foundational stuff that are foundations to how well your business is doing now were created during that period.
Yeah, like, one of those rainy day things was that starting to do video content. I needed to do it. Like, everyone was talking, video's the future, and I'm like, I know I need to do this, but I just kept putting it off before COVID because it was too busy, and then during it was like, I suppose I may do this then. And it worked as well, because Visit Belfast, Tourism Ireland, Tourism Northern Ireland, they weren't promoting anyone, so they just switched their marketing budget off. No one was talking about Northern Ireland. I was like, right, I'll fucking do it then. So we were out and about North Coast, getting the kids in the videos and stuff all over the place, sort of showcasing what you could do. And saw it as an opportunity in a much quieter marketplace to be heard. So yeah,
Well,
haven't really stopped.
I've got to say, I love a video content for Central Belfast Apartments.
Cheers.
And I remember you saying on another podcast, you mentioned that when people come up to you and say, I really love your videos, you don't know which one they're talking about.
Yeah.
The Airbnb coaching videos where you're a bit more serious, or the Central Belfast Apartments where you're drinking pints and having crack.
They're so different, and like I tell that to people, they don't really get it, but genuinely, if you look at both of those feeds, they are very, very, very different content. And yeah, people come up to me all the time. They're like, "You're like, I have TikTok." I'm like, what have you seen? Because you don't know whether they're talking about the Guinness or they're talking about, I've got an apartment that I want to do, and but yeah, it's good crack.
But this is I want to come to your Airbnb coaching business because, the reason that I think it's so important to hire somebody like you, because you do have a successful Airbnb business that's running. From what I see, you've been able to take a step back as a managing director and go and pursue other things and really focus on the content. And when you're trying to teach people how to, whatever you're doing, systematizing, growing an Airbnb business, and you can, look, this is my business, I've done it. There's a lot of people out there who are doing coaching who have never actually done what they say they're doing. So I think that's really important. So how did the Airbnb coaching business come about? Or was there people reaching out to you asking for help and you were like, here's another opportunity here?
It's funny because from when I started, so to go back again to when I had those 2 apartments and I said I was doing everything myself, and I really was, and it was tough. I was like the E-Myth. I had started the bakery, and all I wanted to do was bake the cakes. All I wanted to do was meet the guests, but I couldn't because I was doing everything else. I was doing the linen, the cleaning, all the emails, the admin and stuff, phone calls, everything. And I just got married then, when I literally had started the company in 2016. So if you remember, I was doing them myself beforehand, but then when I actually started managing other people's, that was about 2016. And yeah, I remember saying to my wife, like, there was so many weekends ruined, date nights ruined, birthdays that I couldn't attend, all this stuff because the demands of the business, it was urgent, that needed done then. So I remember saying to her, like, it's not always going to be like this. I promise you, it's not. And it was horrible. I felt so bad. I didn't want to do it either. So you just jump in. You're like, oh shit, there's so much work here. So sort of from that moment on, I was like, right, every time I grow, I'm getting out a bit more, grow a bit more, get out a bit more. I don't care about money really. What I care about is time, freedom. Freedom is success to me. So every time we got a bit of money, pile it back into the business, get someone else to do some of the shit that I don't want to do. And we've literally just went to that. So fast forward to then after COVID, where it all sort of clicked and kicked in and started to work. I have a rock star team, like an absolute gold diamond team, that have the same values as me. They know exactly what we're trying to do. They're trying to promote Belfast. We're trying to offer the best customer service and the best experience of this city.
It's important.
Trust them implicitly. They're phenomenal. And I leave them to their devices and they leave me. So you ask about how it got started. I think once this is in your head, you're a business owner, you can't switch off. So I'm like, I got the time I always wanted, and then I'm like, well, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't just sit around here doing nothing. So I wanted to sort of help people, and I was helping. I did a workshop with Chris and Mary Selwood from the Property Mate. They sort of said, you've got this experience, you've got this expertise, why don't we run a workshop and we'll sort of help other people. And it really sort of started from there. I wrote that ebook during lockdown as well, or just coming out of lockdown. And yeah, I just sort of thought, well, I've got a lot of expertise and experience and I can help people. People do ask me, well, if your business is doing well, why are you helping people? And there's always 3 reasons. So the first reason is there was no one to help me when I was starting out. I had to make all the mistakes, like fall forward so many times. It was tough going. If I can help people sort of accelerate that, learn from my mistakes, then I'm all for that. The second reason is there are a lot of bad hosts out there. A lot of people who just don't give a shit about what they're doing. They don't care about the guests. They're just in it for the money. You probably got taught by bad coaches or bad mentors.
Yeah.
And they bring the industry reputation down. I don't really know of any other industry that gets a bad reputation for Airbnbs, for the whole thing, because of a few bad hosts. And then the third is, it's another income stream. If, I've been at this a long time, if people want to learn from what I know, then it's going to cost a bit. So, but the real thing that I want to do is, it's something I can do on my own time. I can do as much or as little as I want. There's no demands on me that I have to be here, I have to answer the phone, I have to do this. So it's a lot more freedom and just aligned with my values. Plus, I just like talking about the stuff.
Yeah. Do you know what? Just on that point, then I'm sort of still in that heavy operation phase. I've removed myself from certain parts of the business, but I think it's important, as you say, you start making a bit of money, you go through a bit of growth. It comes with new challenges, but then you need someone to manage that too. We're very much in a growth phase at the minute, and with that, it takes more time before you can sort of put processes in place to manage it. And I think it's important for anybody growing a business to understand that if you don't want to have, like you mentioned, speaking to your wife, you don't want to be called out at weekends, everything's urgent, everything has to be responded to immediately, because it does become, it's fine for the first year and a half, but after
I think you should do it for the first year and a half, I'm not going to put a time on it, but you should do everything at the start, because you need to know when you bring someone in, you need to tell them this is how you do it.
Yep,
sort of thing.
Agreed. But so why do you think you're so ambitious in your own mind?
I don't know. I think I always did want to do something. I didn't know what it was. I wanted to sort of be the best at whatever I was doing. I wanted to run my own business. I think I had, I always remember my granda, he was quite successful, Jack Willis from Willis Plumbing. He did all these big jobs, like did the heating system in the King's Hall and invented the Willis immersion heater. So if you have immersion heater in your house when you were a kid, that was my granda invented that.
No way.
So like I was always told this when I was younger, thinking, fuck, I got a lot to live up to here. I think it was maybe that, I don't know, but I think recently, like during COVID, it was the drive to get the freedom, the drive to get the time back, and that sort of spurred me along. It's not about money. I'm not chasing £1 million or anything like that. I'm not like materialistic with clothes or watches or anything. It's the freedom. It's the time. I've got 2 young boys, and I want to show them what you can do, that you don't have to just go and get a job and work for someone else and take orders from someone else. You can find something that you love to do and go at it and make a living from it and be happy.
Mm-hmm. And in regards to lifestyle, because I know you love the cold water dips. I know you love just that kind of stress. How does that help you? Just with business, or why did you start the cold water dips?
Yeah, I love it. So I started it like everyone, I think, during COVID. I think everyone at least has done one during COVID. And
got a dry robe as well.
Yeah. Didn't have one at the start. That's like, that's when you've moved up from beginner to intermediate, when you get one of them. I started it, and I started going in with a group of guys, and it was just, it's not even the water, I don't think, as much anymore. It's the networking. Obviously the water is important, but it's just the whole experience of getting up early, going down to the sea. And when I'm thinking about this, I'm not thinking about summer. I'm thinking about the times when I did it in January, and like the snow where the sand was frozen and it was 2 degrees, and knowing this is fucking horrible, this is gonna be horrible, but just going and doing it anyway. I think pushing yourself to those limits. We're getting on. Well, I'm 38. Don't know what age you are, but we're getting on. There's not much excitement anymore. When you're a kid, you remember your first roller coaster, your first time on a plane, your first go-kart. You don't really get that when you're older. It sort of all goes. You can do a bungee jump and skydive and stuff, but I've done that. So you need those, I think, as men anyway, we need those sort of challenges of like, I'm going to fucking do this. You're not going to beat me. See? So I love doing that, and it is freezing. But it's worth it, So I do the sea at least once a week, get a cold shower every morning, and it's it's just the same. You turn that dial on the shower all the way to cold. It's a wee battle that you've won straight away every day.
Yeah. So how important do you think having a good lifestyle is to for you, well, first of all, to challenge yourself, but how important do you think a good lifestyle is to effectively be able to run a business?
I think it's massively important. But I suppose it depends on what people are after from their business. You know, if they're just after money, then maybe they're going to sacrifice time because the money will be the most important thing. For me, money's nowhere near you know, obviously you need enough to live and be comfortable, but as soon as you get enough, then it has to, in my opinion, the focus has to switch to time. You're not going to get it back. You do not, in my opinion, you want to get your business to a stage where you're not needing to be in it for it to be making money or for even to grow, that you're not exchanging your time for money directly. I think that's a rat race and a race to the bottom where you're going to wake up at 60 loaded, but realize, well, fuck, you know, the best years are gone. I can't spend this money on anything decent. You're just going to go to the grave with it. I'd much rather look back at 60 and have seen every milestone in my kids, have been on holidays, have been able to just at the drop of a hat go and do whatever you want to do, a walk in the park, go get a coffee, take them swimming, you know, just whatever you want. Like those experiences with your family or just with your friends, doing whatever you want to do, those are far more valuable than money, than cash in the bank sort of thing. Mm-hmm. In terms of running the business as well, you know, as business owners, I think we need clear heads, time off where you can just daydream and strategize. You know, I think there's this
creative time.
Yeah, there's sort of entrepreneurial. You talked about entrepreneurial ambition, and that's 100% there. But I think another attribute of an entrepreneur is being a sort of dreamer, an ideas person. You know, and what I found is I'm very good at the ideas, but I actually I hate the implementation of it. Sort of, you get a bit bored once you've had this great idea, but you're trying to plug it in yourself. Someone else just do that. But if you're stuck in the business, working like all these hours, your phone's the one ringing, you're putting the fires out. Like your brain is so focused on the you know, it's from another book here, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This time, how you use your time. It's focused on the urgent and important tasks which need done today or now, but you're not going to have time for the sort of
later tasks,
brain switch off, daydreamy sort of important but not urgent tasks and things that like the strategy and, you know, what about if we did this way, or, you know, you just come up with these ideas and stuff, and, you know, you only come up with those ideas when your brain's free, empty, sort of relaxed. That's when these connections form naturally, and, you know, often happens in the shower. You just think, oh, that's a brilliant idea. But if you're sitting in the shower thinking, right, okay, I've got it this, and then this, and then this, and then this, you've no time, you've no space for that to happen. So I think you need to be scheduling. Even if you are busy, you need to be scheduling like half an hour, 45 minutes a day, or a couple hours a week to just go out and do something completely away from work, not to do with work at all. And that doesn't mean you sit at your desk and have strategy time, because it's not going to work like that.
No.
You're just like, right, now I'm going to think of great ideas, and you're just like,
yeah,
it's not going to
happen. Slam a sofa and in the office, it doesn't work. I've tried it.
And like, you know, going to those dips in the morning, I go to Helens Bay, so it's like half-hour drive from Belfast and whatever, and listen to podcasts and other people who are in business and have great ideas and stuff, and it just fires things off in you. And, you know, it's just so important to have that. You just feel better. You're going to be more productive. You're going to be more effective when you give yourself that time. So I just think sometimes people can be short-sighted and think, you know, there's that quote, I think it was Abraham Lincoln, about if you've 6 hours to chop down a tree, you spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe.
Yeah.
But people would often say, I have no time to sharpen the axe. I've got to cut the tree down now. And it's like, well, if you just sit and think and strategize about this, you're going to be more effective. So
I couldn't agree more. And I, like I said earlier on, I'm in a phase where I'm like 75% operating, kind of implementing things, and 25% of trying to do creative and whatever else.